Creator, Episode 15, Interview with Greene. I'm your host, Maurice. This podcast is to inspire, motivate, and give practical, simplistic information that you can begin implementing in your life today in order to help create your new mind. Greene is a motivational speaker who was born in Savannah, Georgia, and raised in a small town located on the outskirts of Jasper County, Georgia. He graduated from Benedict College, where he received his bachelor's degree in computer information science. Kyle has been speaking to middle schools, high schools, charter schools, colleges, nonprofit organizations, and churches throughout the Southeast, spreading his message of hope, love, and purpose. Because of his community service work, he was recognized as one of the 12 in the Minority Eye Most Interesting Minorities of 2013. He's a member of the South Carolina Black Pages Top 40 Under 40 list, and he was the headline act for the 2014 Why Are You Alive College Tour. One of Kyle's mentors was Reverend Clementa C. Pinckney, Democratic member of the South Carolina Senate, who was tragically slain in Charleston, South Carolina on June 17, 2015 at the Mother Emanuel AME Church along with 8 other victims. Kyle burst onto the national scene in 2012 when he organized a rally in Columbia, South Carolina, in Fenway Park in support of Trayvon Martin that approximately 3,500 people attended. He has been interviewed by CNN and every radio and news station in the city of Columbia, South Carolina. He's the author of his debut book entitled The Mentality Changer, and he's currently in the process of writing his second book entitled The Teacher in You. Now let us go into the interview. Hello, Kyle.
What's up, man? How are you?
Good. How are you? First of all, I would like to thank you and welcome you to the New Mind Creator podcast.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yes, my motto and quote is everybody knows something that you don't know, therefore be enriched through your interaction with one another. And that's what I hope and know, that this interview will be enriching to others and others will learn. So I would like to jump right into the interview in order to expedite time. I know it took us a little while to get connected, but I'm thankful that we did.
Right.
Yeah. So starting off, could you just tell the listeners a little about your childhood?
Oh man, where do I begin? So I was raised by my grandmother. My mom, she chose like the life of drugs. So she was in and out of the home. Like she would go sometimes like 8-9 months at a time without being there. And then she would come home for a month and a half. And what she would do was like sleep on the couch. And I guess she was sleeping because, the drugs kind of just took a toll on her body. So she just rested. And I would walk in the house and just look at her sleeping on the couch. So my childhood, man, it was a little different. Like, being raised by your elderly grandmother, you're not afforded really like a luxurious life. So I didn't have like all of the finer things in life that my friends and my other family members might have had, because my grandmother, she was on a fixed income. So I can remember sometimes her sitting at the table crying, and then I would go when she would go up and go to like the restroom or something. I would go to the table that she was sitting at, and I would just kind of look to see what she was looking at, and she was looking at like medical bills, and then she had to kind of determine and decide what she paid for this medical bill, what she paid by her medicine, her prescriptions, or what she paid to help send me on this field trip. So we kind of struggled like a lot. So I came from that. Like my dad was a decent man. He's a decent man, but my dad was absent from the house. Like he didn't live there. I didn't live with him. He lived in the next town over. So I never had the luxury of shooting hoops with my dad. My dad never like read me a bedtime story, anything like that. So I came from a very humble beginning. But my grandmother, the one thing that she did have a whole lot of love, man, when she had a whole lot of like love. She not just told me she loved me, she showed me she loved me. And, even though I go to Pastor Travis Greene church now and we really good friends, he got the song Made Away. Like my grandmother, she did that before that song became even popular. My grandmother always made a way out of no way.
Wow. 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 That's quite a story that, I mean, I could only imagine how that felt. But oftentimes I know that how we came up and how we were brought up correlates into how we go about our lives and the things and the path that we take. So you could have taken many routes from home, coming from a home like that, but I'm sure that you're thankful that you took the route you took.
Exactly. I tried to travel the road less traveled.
Right. Wow. So what did you notice about yourself that was different compared to your childhood friends when you were a kid? What did you notice different?
So the one thing that I did notice different was if I would go to like my best friend, Shannon house, right? Like he had his mom and dad there. It was like his grandparents. It was still like his mom and dad. I used to look at them as my parents. And then I would go. I had a cousin, Jack, my cousin Kendall. Like they had their mom and dad present in their home. So I was like, man, I don't know if that's like the norm, if I don't know if my what I see as the norm with just being raised by my grandmother. So I kind of, battled that internally in my mind, like, man, my parents not there. Or maybe, my life is good because my grandmother is raising me. So in the early part, like I kind of struggled with that. And another thing that I saw different with my friends was, how I dress versus how they dress, like the things that they had versus the things that I got. And for me, um, I didn't know that I was poor, if that makes sense. Like I didn't know that I was poor. Like I knew I didn't have everything, but I knew every night like we had food. I knew every morning we had food. I knew, every day I came home to a house that was, a shelter. I came home to a place that was filled with love. I knew I came home to like laughs and great experiences. So even if I was rich, when I think about it now, even if I was poor, when I think back on it now, I didn't know it. And my grandmother never allowed us not having maybe the finer things in life to really show that we couldn't one day aspire to get it, if that makes sense.
Right. Right. So how so who are some of your mentors and how did they influence your life at an early age?
Man, I'm glad you asked that. So at an early age, my biggest mentor was probably my grandmother. I mean, I don't want that to sound real cliche. My grandmother had a massive heart attack. She had 2 strokes. She had a knee operation, 2 knee operations, one that almost took her life. They gave her too much anesthesia, and she didn't wake up from it. She had a stroke late in her life. Like my grandmother had so many things that happened in her life, but she still persevered. She still had a certain level of resiliency that didn't allow her to ever complain about like anything. So my grandmother, she gave me like so many life lessons. Like she would tell me if people treat you bad, you ought to still treat them right. She would say if they slap you on the right cheek, you should turn to the left. Like my grandmother taught me all these life lessons that was absolutely stupid to me then. Like honestly, I thought those were some of the dumbest things my grandmother ever told me. Kyle, in order to gain respect, it's not terribly a bad idea. And first extending of olive branch and giving it. I'm like, yo, grandmother, why do I have to give people respect if they don't show me respect first? And it's like it's not always about how people treat you, but it's how you treat them. Like my grandmother taught me so much stuff as a kid until I really believe like that truly impacted my life today. And then my other mentor, I met him when I was in the 10th grade. We from the same hometown. He was a few years ahead of me. He graduated with one of my first cousins, but Reverend Senator Clemente Pinckney. He came back home, and he would always come speak at our school, speak at our like different events. I remember I got a picture with me and him standing together when I was in 4-H, and we were being commemorated for something. And he told me, it's like, Kyle, man, it doesn't matter where you come from. What's important is where you're trying to go in life. So even though we came from a small town and we didn't have a whole lot, like, he made me believe that I could go anywhere in the world and I could do anything if I just put my mind to it. So on June the 17th, 2015, when I found out that he was murdered in his church in Charleston, South Carolina at Mother Emanuel with 8 other parishioners of his church, man, it really took something out of me, because he took me under his wing at such a young age, because he saw something in me that I didn't even see within my own self. So my grandmother and Reverend Senator Clemente Pinckney were my mentors in the early part of my life, along with my teachers and my coaches that, was really like on me, because they really expected more out of me. I don't know if I really saw, because I don't think I even understood or knew what a mentor was then.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what was the common theme that your mentors told you about yourself?
That I could do anything, that I could, like, I didn't have to be defined by my mistakes. I didn't have to take growing up in a small country town. I didn't have to have that mentality like it was a big old world out there, and I can be a part of that big old world. Because see, when I was 16 years old in the 10th grade, I became a statistic. I had a child when I was only a child.
Mm-hmm.
I had my daughter in the 10th grade, 16 years old. I'm a kid having a kid, but
Wow.
they never allowed like that moment to define me. They always were about how you can always redefine yourself. You can always do something different with your life. Just because you had a child early, like, don't let that stop you from going to college. Don't let that stop you from doing the right things, even though you made, the wrong mistake. So that was really like the theme, the overall themes, that I could still make it, that I could still be successful, even though I made a mistake.
Wow. Wow. That is powerful. So what motivates you? What is it that motivates you?
Early part of my life, it was definitely my grandmother. I always wanted to make her proud. I always wanted to make her happy. I remember when I would get like, make the AB honor roll or something. Like, she would brag to her friends. She would tell Miss Jones. She would tell Cousin T. She would, tell everybody, Kyle made the honor roll. Or if I was all area, all region, all state in football, basketball, or track, like, she would brag to her friends. So just to give her like bragging rights, and not bragging saying my grandson is better than yours, but to say, you see what our boy did. You see what Kyle did. That really meant something to me, because I knew my grandmother. I knew she did so much with so few, to afford me the opportunity to just even try to be remotely successful, to try to have a good life, even though she knew she couldn't provide a whole lot financially. I just wanted to make her proud and make her happy. And then, when I had my daughter early, man, my daughter, when you have a kid, and I tell everybody this, man, kids really like humble you in a sense. So they really just do something to you when, you look into a baby's eyes and they're so innocent and so vulnerable. And you being a parent, you know that you are directly in charge in the success or the failure in this young person's life. So like my daughter was my motivation, because I wanted to give her a life that I did not have. And then a few years back, I had a son, and now, so, my kids, man, my kids motivate me. Like, I want to, I don't, I want to be there to give them everything that they need, not just everything that they want, but I also want to be able to give them those wants that they might want, just for, doing good in school, or doing the right thing, because I never got, I take that back. I got everything that I needed. I might have not didn't have the Jordans and all the nice pairs of clothes and stuff, But the things that my family could provide, and they did a really awesome job of really providing me the things that I needed growing up. And I won't say, you know, I never went to bed hungry. Every Christmas I always had gifts to open. So I wouldn't really change anything about my life.
Wow. Wow. That is good. So I believe that every person on earth is either being or becoming. What are you becoming as a person and or a motivational speaker?
Man, I'm becoming so impactful by the message. Anytime I speak, if I go speak at a school with like 1,300 students, or speak to a sophomore class in Lawrence, South Carolina, at Lawrence Senior High of 400 students, I went and spoke there a few months back. I gave away like 2 of my books, The Mentality Changer, A Journey to Help Change How You Once Thought About You.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had their Title I person message me. She said, I just want a copy of your book. Like, what can we do to make that happen? And so I worked out some numbers that made it happen. And I signed all 400 copies, personally autographed, not just put my name like
Wow.
Greene, but I wrote a message like, you can be great if only you believe in yourself. Dreams never happen until you make them happen. And your life has purpose, and spread love and not hate. Like, I wrote a message in all 400 books. And then these students, they read the books and they message me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Snapchat, and say, Mr. Kyle, your book really touched my life, or I'm reading your book and I'm loving it. Just knowing like I'm becoming an impactor on life. Like, I impact lives. I change mindsets. I give people who once probably didn't have hope, I give them hope. I give people who really don't have a voice, like a voice. Like, I try to be that to like the world, to anybody who is receptive to it. So I am becoming a national player when it comes to impacting people's lives and really changing mindsets for the good.
Wow, that is wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful to hear. So, what role has faith played in your life?
Man. My grandmother raised me in the church, and if y'all hear a theme here, man,
Uh-huh.
everything centers around my grandmother. Like, the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding, the life lessons that she really instilled inside of me. If I thought it was dumb then, or I didn't understand it then, like, it makes perfect sense now. And because I respected her, I always tried to do those things, whether if it made sense or not. Like, I still did the things that my grandmother instilled in me. But she raised us in the church. Like, I went to church whether I wanted to go to church or I didn't want to go to church. And then it became a point where church going to church, like that's your only option. Like,
Uh-huh.
if I went to like watch night, right? Um I would say, Grandma, I'm going out with my friends. She would say, yo, Kyle, I don't care what you do after church, but you're going to bring New Year's in on your knees, and you're going to thank God for getting you over another year. Like, she raised us in the church. She would have me teaching Sunday school. She would have me like being the king for our king and queen program. Like, when we had field day, I did every activity, whether it was running the 100-meter dash or the sack race. Like, my grandmother had me vested in church because she understood that as long as you like got God at the center, man, everything else kind of falls in place. Even if your life fall on track, like if God at the center, like the foundation never crumbles. It might break, but it never like crumbles. It may bend, but it never crumbles where it can't be built back up. So my grandmother, she raised me in the church, and now I take my kids to church. I don't care what they got going on. Like, I don't care if you tired. I'm tired too. You're gonna wake up and we're gonna go to church, because I understand how important church is to your overall like success in life. And I always pray, man, every night. I'd be like, yo, God, let me be a liaison between you and your people. I'll say, like, God, let people see your light in my shine. So even if I might win an award or I'm recognized for something, I want people to see me and be like, yo, he got to have some type of God in his life, because it's something different about him. So my faith is vitally important to my well-being, to my overall success as me as a person and as an individual.
Wow. All right. What would you say to someone who may be listening right now who believes that they are a failure because of where they are presently in their circumstances?
In my speech, it's crazy you asked that. In my speech, I'll say, just because you make a mistake in life, it does not mean that you are a mistake. Just because you fail in life, it doesn't mean that you are a failure. And sometimes in life, man, you take losses. It doesn't mean that you a loser. See, what's important about making mistakes and failures and taking losses is how you get yourself up, how you brush your shoulders off, and how you live to fight another day. All I've been doing was fighting my entire life. I make a mistake, I get it right the next time. I fail at an idea, I'll try again. I take a loss in trying to do a business venture. It doesn't really affect me. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't get me down. It doesn't discourage me. All we know about is like Apple. We might see Apple, right, and we think, man, Apple is an amazing company, but we probably have no idea that Steve Jobs might have started 8 other businesses. All we know about is Apple. All we know about is the one that made it. So what is your one idea? What is your one dream that's going to become a reality? What is the one thing that keep you up at night that can be a $1 billion business idea that can help change not just your life, but your family life? Like if you just stayed down and you always just cried yourself because you failed, man, you're not giving yourself, you're not giving your family a chance to even try again, to even try to make it, to try to be successful. So I don't care about failures. I don't care about mistakes. I don't care about how many losses you take. All I care about is if you're trying to get it right on the next one. That's it.
Trying to get it right. Okay. All right. That sounds good. So, what would you say was a defining moment in your influence within the community? Something um, you organized, like a gathering of sorts.
So Trayvon Martin, he was murdered in Stanford, Florida. Happened in a city that I never visited. It happened to a kid that I never met. I really had no dog in that fight, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I was sitting in my living room and I heard Sabrina Fulton say, this could have happened to any one of our sons. And before we had the Sandra Bland, before we had the Walter Scotts, before we had the um, Tamar, the kid in Cleveland on the playground who had the BB gun, before we had all of these killings, it seemed like the one that captured the hearts and the imagination in the social media realm was Trayvon Martin. And when I heard Sabrina Fulton say this could have happened to any one of our sons, my son had this like rock star hoodie that we got him from Old Navy, and he would wear this thing if it was like 100 degrees outside.
Hmm.
And he was like, "Yo, Dad, man, I can't wear my hoodie no more." And I said, "Why you say that?" He was like, "Because I might get killed like Trayvon Martin." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, so I can't wear this hoodie no more, Dad." I was like, "Nah, man, like we don't think like that. Our mindset is not wired like that." So I went on my social media platforms. I was like, "Hey, what do y'all think about doing a rally for Trayvon Martin?" This was like late one Wednesday night, like early Thursday morning. And everybody was like, and I'm thinking everybody was going to be asleep. I'm thinking nobody would like see it. And it's real, like God really has a sense of humor, man, because sometimes when you put stuff out in the atmosphere, he holds you accountable to it. So I really had no intentions on doing this rally, but like it went viral. Like everybody was commenting, liking it, sharing, retweeting it. I had people inboxing me a flyer. I had people connecting to me with city officials. Like everything like fell in place. So in 2 days, like this event went viral. And like they was talking about it on the radio. I was being interviewed on radio stations, television stations. The Friday night before the rally was that Saturday morning. So in 2 days, I had DJs and clubs stop playing and say, "Hey, I need all of y'all to go to Finley Park tomorrow morning. Kyle is putting together a rally in honor of Trayvon Martin." And so, like, I get to Finley Park, bro. It's overcast. I'm like, man, you know how we get. God, why would you give me this idea if all you're gonna do is just let it rain? Like, man, I can't believe you. I let you talk me into this. Like, man, I'm just like, I'm done with you. You know how we get.
Right.
But then God being as clever and as funny and as so God as he is, he like departed the clouds, man, and he let the sun peep his head in. And then he had people coming from all parts of the park coming in. And before you know it, man, it was a sunny, bright day, thousands of people in the park. I had the chief of police come up to me. He said, "Who put this rally together?" And I was like, "I did." He was like, "Well, I want to let you know it's about 3,500 people present." I called it the 1,000 hoodie march, man. Like God, because it was nobody but God. Nobody else really could do that. Like he sent an extra like 2,500 people. So at that point, I was like, man, like Kyle, you got something big on your life. Like you're supposed to bring people together. Because I had white people there, black people, young people, old people. I had, political people. I did stuff in the music industry, so I had like music industry people there. I was working at one of the top like IT companies, so I had corporate people there. So I brought all of these people together, like a melting pot of people, to Finley Park to honor a kid who lost his life, who I felt like, in America, man, right is right, wrong is wrong, point blank, period. He was killed. And if you remember, George Zimmerman was not being held accountable for it. And I was like, yo, if I kill somebody, I'm about to get locked up, whether you believe it or not. Like, and you got to let Mother Justice like perform this action. So at that point, that Trayvon Martin rally really like put me on the map in my community as being like a major player in my community.
Wow, that's wonderful. So you mentioned there were various demographics of people at the rally. What were some of the things people from the opposite race had to say who were in unison with the rally?
They said the same thing that I was really just saying, man. Like it's not a white or a black issue; it's a wrong or a right issue. You know, uh, innocent white, people, white kids, white teenagers, they lose their lives the same way. It might not be in the same, um, might not be as often, and I don't know if it is or not. I'm sure some statistics out there, but it just seemed like at one point it seemed like every month somebody black was killed, um, you know, thrown in the back of the car. I mean, in the back of the squad car or whatever van in Baltimore. Like, I don't see, like, we don't hear about those issues like that when it happened in the white community. But the thing is, like, it happens. Like, sometimes innocent white boys, since it happened to a lot of like black males, white boys are killed just like black males. So I had this one lady who was there, who her son was murdered. I forgot. I think she said it happened like at an Applebee's or someplace on the other side of town, and she said nobody was held accountable for it. So she was there remembering it was her grandson's life. Like people understand it, man. Like the civil rights movement, it wouldn't have became like as big as it was if white people didn't understand what Dr. Martin Luther King was walking for. They if they didn't understand what Rosa Parks took a seat for. Like people understood that. Like some white people, they get it. They understand what's going on, and when they see wrong is wrong, they call people out on it. That's why we got to get back to having some type of moral conscience about what's going on to society in general, because it happened to white people, it happened to black people. Some white people, they raised hell when that happened in Charlottesville, Virginia, because they knew that was wrong. Like at the end of the day, man, like love has to always trump hate. Like that's point blank, period. Love has to always win, and I don't care what hate looks like. I know what love looks and what it feels like, and I'm always on the side of love.
Oh, good. Excellent. So you were interviewed by some radio stations and also TV station?
Yeah, I was interviewed by every radio station here in Columbia, every news station here in Columbia, the state magazine, free times. I mean, everybody wanted to kind of know like what was the whole theme of the rally? What was it for? What was I trying to aim? Like what was my aim? And I had my good friend Chris Sullivan, and I had my homegirl Mel, Melanie Wood. Like I had them help me out and put it all together. Charles Hickman. I had people who saw the vision and understand what I was trying to do. And we just, man, we worked tirelessly really to try to make people feel like they was a part of something.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So you mentioned that you have a couple books.
Yeah.
What are the titles, and what are the, quick, somewhat of a synopsis about it?
So my first book, The Mentality Changer, A Journey to Help Change How You Once Thought About You, it's just a book really to like get you to change your mindset on how you look and how you view like life and things that happen. Oftentimes, man, we want to change the world, but we haven't first changed our own community. You know, we want to change other people, but we haven't first changed ourselves. So you can't like begin to change anything until you first take care yourself. So I wrote this book, and instead of calling them chapters, I call every section of the book journeys, because I believe journeys, a journey is a where we travel to get us to a destination. So in each journey, I take you to a destination that I want you to get to mentally. So like I'm looking in the book now. So like Journey 7, which is my favorite, it's called Hey to Sit Courtside. And I said, not everybody sitting courtside is really on your side. Don't you think for a second that all of your friends are really your true friends? Don't you think for a second that every family member who says that they want to see you make it, mean it? Don't you think for a second that the people in your church aren't praying for your downfall instead of your rise up? There are people in your life who show up every single day to watch you play, and they are secretly rooting for you to lose as they are openly cheering for you to win. Understand that these people come in all shapes, sizes, and forms. And I just talk about like, you know, man, people hate on you, right? Like people, and I don't want people to be naive and not think that your family and your friends like won't hate on you. Like, you know, it's so crazy, man. People are say, man, I want to see you do good. I want to see you make it. But you know what? They don't want to see you become more successful than them. Because as soon as you become more successful than them, it feels like them themselves are not good enough. And then they'll spin it on you, and they'll say, oh man, Maurice, you think you all that? You think you better than me, right? Like you think just because you got this stupid podcast, people are listening. And so they'll end up trying to talk you and discourage you out of your dreams, out of your goals, out of your aspirations, because now you starting to be a little bit more successful than them. And they don't want you to be really more successful than them, because then now they feel threatened by you. So I wrote a book to change your mindset, to get you out of thinking like that, to get you out of that crab in the barrel mentality, to get you out of, and then at the end of each journey, I ask you questions so you can have like a moment of self-reflection. So in the journey that I talk about the crab in the barrel, I ask you, are you the crab that's pulling people back? Or are you the barrel that's keeping people from living out their dreams? Because you either the crab or the barrel. Like you can't say you want somebody to be good, but when they say, hey, I'm about to move to Atlanta, I'm gonna move to LA, you tell them, I don't think you should do that. Because then now all you're doing is talking them out of their dreams. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Exactly.
And then my book, I'm writing a book now for educators, for teachers. It's called The Teacher in You. The subtitle I haven't really decided on yet, but this book is really to help teachers understand their roles in the lives of their students, to get teachers to really understand that they impact future generations, to get teachers to understand that they have their finger on the pulse of the next president of the United States, that they have their finger on the pulse of the next Silicon Valley CEO, to get teachers to understand that they control what will happen in the future generations. So I'm writing this book really to show teachers and to give teachers that inspiration, that motivation, that push, to show them that they have a very integral role in what happens in this great country.
Wow, that sounds like a really good book. that you're in the process of writing and the book that you've already written. How can people purchase your book?
So the you can either go to my website, www.kyle, K-Y-L-E-A as in awesome Greene with an E at the end.com. It's on there, but like anything, man, everything is on Amazon. I self-published it. It's on Amazon. You just type in The Mentality Changer. It'll pull right up. You can look at the reviews, read the reviews, see what people are talking about before you even purchase the book. And in the infamous words that I forgot old boy name, but I used to love the show Reading Rainbow, he would always say, but you don't have to take my word for it.
Yeah, that's funny. So I'm going to purchase your book. I'm going to be the first one from my podcast to purchase your book.
Appreciate it.
Yes, it sounds like a really good book. I'm going to go on Amazon or your website and purchase that book in support of you. I like what you're doing, what you stand for. You're very inspirational to so many people. And what more can you ask of another person to be but helpful in any way they can be? So what is the main theme that you would like to leave with our listeners?
So I end every speech. Let me clear my throat. I end every speech like this. I says, success in your life doesn't just happen. Every morning you wake up, you're given another opportunity to make it happen. Success is simply a mindset. Those who think that they can become successful many times do, while those who think that they can't many times don't. How are you thinking? How do you view your current situation? Is it a success or is it a failure? Are you basing your success on those around you? And if you are, who's to say that they're even successful? Quit looking into the mirror of others, trying to find a reflection of what your success should look like. Your success looks like you. You own your success. And if you stare off into your mirror long enough and you don't like what's reflecting back at you, only you, not your mother, not your brother, not your sister, even your cousin, but only you have the ability to change it. So do something in your life that has never been done. Do something in your life that will cause your haters to stop and acknowledge your accomplishments. Achieve a goal that not even a family member said that you could do or had a chance on completing. Birth out that dream that lives in the pits of your belly. Birth it out into a world and make it one of the greatest realities that mankind has ever seen. Yes, you and not just me can do some amazing things. If only you just think that you can. Yes, you and not just your friend. You can defy all the odds. You can beat back all the stereotypes and you become whoever it is that you desire to be. Yes, you and not just the local businessman. One day you can own your own business, hire your own people, being your own boss. Yes, you and not just your favorite teachers. One day you can walk across the stage. You can receive your own PhD degree. You can do the unthinkable. If only you just think that you can. And you can do the impossible. If only you believe in the endless possibilities that surround you each and every day. And guess what, listeners? A new Mind Creator Radio. You can reach heights that you once thought were unreachable. But first, you just got to reach out your hand.
Wow, what a powerful way to end the speech. Wow, very powerful. I enjoyed that. I know the listeners enjoyed as well. I would like you to give our listeners your contact information, social media, website, whatever. I want you to give them all of that information now.
So my email address is Kyle, Kyle, at Kyle, A as an awesome Greene with the E at the end.com. So Kyle at KyleAGreene.com. On Facebook, you can find me. Just type in, do a search on Kyle Greene. On Instagram, it's Kyle Speaks, KyleSpeaks, Kyle Speaks. That's the same thing on Instagram, Kyle Speaks. On Twitter, it's Kyle Speaks _. So yeah, Snapchat. If you did in the Snapchat, the new age, new way for these young teens, these young people, man. It's Kyle Speaks as well. But that's where I am, man. My website is www.kyleagreene.com. So, and my hashtag, if you just want to search that, sometime, man, they have it. That social media, man, is amazing. You can just hashtags and find people. So just hashtag Kyle Speaks, and you'll find me somewhere on a social media platform near you.
Excellent, excellent. I would like to just thank you again, Kyle, for being our guest, so gracious uh, during this interview with me. I'm so thankful and so thankful for you being so inviting as you are, even for me to ask you questions about being a motivational speaker and you being so free to answer. Oftentimes, when someone is doing something, and or in a particular space, they feel somewhat afraid to give information to others. But I believe there's enough room for everybody. And you definitely have that same mindset as well, because you were so freely giving me information.
Oh man, I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I thank you again, and we're signing off.
All right, man. Take care.
All right. Goodbye.